Hi ladies and gentlemen, today is July 8th, 2013, and yes, I'm out in the wilds again. As I said, this is where I come to kind of reflect and think, and of course it gets me out of the city and away from prying eyes and ears. I wanted to talk a little bit more about liberty today and then jump over into an Agenda 21 problem. So let me do that. What I'm going to talk about here today is, of course, the liberty thing again, because as I've said so many times, liberty equals God, slavery equals the evil one, Satan, Lucifer, however you want to look at it. To make it more simple, let's just say liberty equals good and life, and slavery equals evil, bad, okay? For those of you who would prefer it that way. And you know, there's a reason why I say that, and I'm going to read a scripture up front here real quick first. It's in James. Now, I don't know if you have studied much about James. James was the brother of the man that we know as Jesus. And he was actually, there's been a conflict, as there is in all, spiritual systems and religions, about who was supposed to actually have followed Jesus as the leader, whether it was Peter or James. I'm of the persuasion from my studies that it was actually supposed to be James and not Peter, and certainly not Paul. But that's a historical discussion more than anything else, and I'm not really going to go there. But a lot of people don't realize that the book of James was almost, I should say, not included in the New Testament, because James taught something that seems so different than all of the letters from Paul. But James is constantly talking about charity, and he's constantly talking about love, and he's constantly talking about, and this is where the rub came, that faith without works is dead, of course, and that seemed to be somewhat opposed to the man we know as Paul. I'm not going to go there, but I just wanted you to know that I'm aware of that conflict. But James is actually one of my favorite scriptures. And so I'm going to read something here because I think it's really important about what we're going to talk about today. First of all, I want to read this. This is in James, and yes, it is the King James Version. I've got plenty of versions, but I know most people prefer this. So this is the General Epistle of James, and it's chapter 1, and it's verse 27. And this kind of goes along with when I did that video here a while ago about, having the Spirit of Christ and what that means. And it's more your personality and your character rather than the person that you're paying homage to. And I know that disturbs a lot of people, but I think this will be another example of why I said that. This is James chapter 1 verse 27, and I'm just going to read this to you. It says, "Pure religion and undefiled before God and the Father is this, to visit the fatherless and the widows in their affliction, and to keep himself unspotted from the world." Wow. That's pure religion and undefiled, according to James, the brother of Jesus, who many believe was actually the leader of the Christians after Jesus was crucified. Now, I want to go back now and read what he says about the law of liberty, because this is so wonderful. James is probably our most... Well, he knew the man, and that's very, very important. So I'm going to read James 1:25 first, and this is what he says. Remember, I equate liberty to God and good and life, and I equate slavery with the devil, evil, bad, and death. Okay, this is what he says in 25. "But whoso looketh into the perfect law of liberty, and continueth therein, he being not a forgetful hearer, but a doer of the work, this man shall be blessed in his deed." And then in 2:12, James 2:12, I wanted to read this. "So speak ye, and so do, as they that shall be judged by the law of liberty." Now you can go to those two scriptures or three, and you can look at them to yourself. But as I've said, liberty is talked about everywhere, right from the book of Genesis all the way through to Revelations, and it's what we choose to do that defines us, and that's what's so important. Okay, so why did I bring up this thing about liberty today? And I could spend a whole video on this, but I think you get the point. Get yourself a concordance. A Strong's concordance is good if you want to study it from the spiritual side, from if you believe in God, and especially Judeo-Christian tradition. You can go through there and look in the concordance and see all the places where liberty, freedom, is talked about, and you'll notice that it's key to everything that happens. And if you're not religious, then of course go study the Spartacus and the Zealot movement of the first century, trying to throw off the Roman occupation in Palestine. You can, about the Magna Carta all the way through the Declaration of Independence, etc., and see how people have yearned for this even when they've been under great control by evil people. All right, so I think you'll understand why I talk about liberty so much. And now I'm going to segue kind of off into this Agenda 21 thing. Now, as you all know, I talk about all of the crazy things that not only our government and the shadow government is doing to us and to the people of the world, but all governments, really, a great number of them. I mean, just a quick rundown here on a couple things. General Cartwright. We've been looking for a general who would, say, hey, this is wrong, and he did that on this whole thing with Stuxnet on Iran, and now he's up for espionage. The second highest general in our military. So I have to give him hats off on that one. I've got to appreciate that. And all of these other whistleblowers that are coming forward. Look at what our government did to the president of Bolivia. They thought that Snowden was aboard, and they forced him to land. That's a piracy. Okay? What makes us think we can do it? It's like when we went into Noriega, into Panama in 1989, ousted him from there, but the really crazy thing was we put him in an American prison in Florida. These things are acts of war, and we are the bully of the world. We're no longer that bastion of freedom I've been telling you about. And you guys that have been working on this to support this government, and you know who you are. The guys that give us freedom and liberty preachers trouble. The guys out there listening to our phone calls pretending that you're protecting us. You're not. Violating our 4th and 5th Amendment rights, even down to the lower level police officers who are doing this because they're told to. It's a real problem. And now, we force the president of Bolivia out of the air so that we can search his plane for a guy who really has asylum. I mean, an Ecuadorian plane, or Bolivian plane rather, that's Bolivian property. It's just crazy what's going on here, especially when you're talking about the president. Well, what would happen if somebody forced our president down out of the sky looking for somebody? No, we wouldn't take too kindly to that. So now I'm going to, about all the problems that we have in the government. Let's segue over in Agenda 21. I have some information here. You people who are ranchers, farmers, people like that have already received these things. They're U.S. Department of Agriculture census forms. 24 pages. And of course, what's the number one thing they want to know? How much money you make from your crops, your animals, and that stuff. That's part of it. But it's also about this Agenda 21 thing on the rural boards. They're going to control getting these people out of the rural areas and moving them into the urban areas, of course. And also, the government can seize food stores and the means of production and all means of agriculture and all of that under national emergency, which of course means anything. So the individual means nothing anymore. It's all about, the government's not here to protect the individual, which it should be. It's supposed to be here to protect the God-given rights of its citizens. No, it's here to protect itself under the guise that by protecting itself, they say they protect you, but that isn't what they're about. And they violate your rights and your personal space and your very lives every chance they get. So I want to show you this form. It's going to be kind of stop and go. I'm not going to go through the whole thing. I want you to look it up online, okay? And we'll go from there. So let's take a look at this. Okay, for the sake of the privacy of the people that gave me this, I've blocked the information there, who it went to. But this is what it's called, the United States 2012 Census of Agriculture. And it's this form number right here, if you can see that, form 12-A104. With a date of 12/13/2011. Now you can go look that up online and see this for yourself, but this is crazy.
what this thing has here. Now, like I said, this is 24 pages of this nonsense. Look at this. I'm just going to take you down through it real quick. They want to know everything. What acreage you have, what you're growing, what your irrigation. They want to know what crops you have, and of course, look at this. Value of sales, that's on every page. Look at this, dollars. They want to know what you're making. You know, this obviously will be used in conjunction with the IRS and any number of things, but look at this. I'll just give you a real quick look here. It's just page after page. Vegetables, potatoes, and melons, fruits and nuts. And again, always, value of sales, dollars. They want to know everything. Berries, cattle, calves, feedlots, hogs and pigs, horses, you know, aquaculture, sheep and goats. This just goes on and on and on. You know, the only thing I haven't found in here is a request to put down your bank account numbers, but they've got everything else. They ask about, you know, how much money you've made from all of this. And this, they say, is required that you fill this out by law under the census law. And of course that isn't true. They're quoting the census law, but the census law doesn't apply to all this. This is from an executive order. It's just nonsense. But there you are, 24 pages of this, and you've got to go through and calculate all this stuff. It's absolutely, this is tyranny beyond comprehension. Stalin would have loved this system when he was ready to shut down those people over there in the Caucasus and the west part of Russia, or the east part of Russia, I'm sorry.
So I wanted to show you that. I know it was a lot to give you, but you can't go online and look at that form for yourself. This is totally out of control. You know, government's too big. There are too many people working for the government. They have too much time on their hands to do these things, to attack your liberties, to get into your private business, into your private affairs, your day-to-day living, you know? And because of the international bankers who are pushing this, of course, the bottom line is dollars and cents. Ladies and gentlemen, we have to throw these people off. We have to rise up and say no. We need to refuse to comply, and if so, stand with our county sheriffs in defiance of these people. Now, as I've said all along, and I've said it on radio shows and all of this, the majority of people, not only are they asleep, they don't care, because they don't understand. They don't understand that this is a dire time in the history of the world, and especially the future of mankind. We have reached the choice in the road, like in the Wizard of Oz, you know, the fork in the road. Which way are we going to go? Most everybody is going to choose the way of accepting the lies and deceits. We're going to have to let them go. You know, I've done everything I can. I know a lot of other people out there, short of, you know, shedding blood, which, you know, is I'll do that in self-defense, and that's about it. This thing deserves to go down. It is the Babylon of the last days, and it is going to go down. And that's why I say you have to do everything you can to get out of the way. You know, it's amazing to me that people really don't care. You know, another day. We'll have another day of our beer. We'll have another day of our, you know, meeting in our clubs. We'll have not that there's anything wrong with that, but at the exclusion of saving the lives of yourself and your family, to get another day of, you know, fun and games, entertainment. We've really deceived ourselves, this entire country. Brazil, as I mentioned out in one of my videos, you have all those millions of people that are rising up against this unlawful government interference in their lives and taking their property. You see what's happening over in Egypt, and you know, I realize there's other stuff going on there, and you know, that we may not have really expected that, but of course our government had contingency plans to go on there, and I mean, one of them was they were going to send our troops over there to do riot control. What a joke. I mean, like, that's our responsibility. You know, they want everything they can do to destabilize these other countries, and this Al-Qaeda Muslim Brotherhood thing is a great way to do it. Can you believe that Obama would want to go support Al-Qaeda in Syria, Al-Qaeda in Egypt, Al-Qaeda in Libya. Yes, I do. He's a traitor. He's a liar. He's a devil. And I will say that to you. You are, if you're not the devil incarnate, you're his servant, Obama. And yes, I know about your birth certificate. Most of us do, you know, and I know the Democrats go, oh, no, you don't talk about that. Illegitimate. Maybe in more ways than one. All right, well, I didn't mean to get off on that tangent. Enough for now. I'll get this thing up. You all see it. I don't, you know, today is, like I said, the whatever day it is, the 8th, I guess. But it might not be up on the 8th. It might be a few days later. I'm actually out here trying to get, I guess, a little spiritual direction and try to understand these people that are spying out our liberties, even our right to speak out against the government, redress of grievance, dissent, and all of that. And of course, they've done it for a long time. The FBI, you know, watched the anti-war people who were against the war in Vietnam, and rightly so. I mean, not what the FBI did, but the people against the war in Vietnam. It was the right thing to do. This government is a servant unto itself, in violation of every principle that it claims to stand for. And as I said, I will not support it. I won't fight against my fellow countrymen, but I will not support this government in its evil doings around the world and to our people here at home. And you people that are out there, you know, all those ones that have been, you know, looking at us on our phone calls and our emails and even following us around, I got a kick out of some of the people who say, well, what, you know, that don't want to believe this is still going on. They don't need to do that anymore. Boy, you guys, you really haven't kept paying attention, have you? You know, there's more to the game than listening to you on your emails and your phone calls or where your car drives because of your OnStar or whatever. There's more to it than that. You speak up and see what happens to you. Don't just write on YouTube and you know, denigrate somebody else who's trying to do, you know, something about it. Why don't you stand out there and you do it and see what happens to you? Especially if you're prior military or you've been in the government or anything like that, or you know, a corporation that has government contracts with where you're required to have a secret clearance or something like that. Yeah, go ahead and start talking and see how long it takes before, you know, they start harassing you. So stop poking fun about people that are saying this is happening to them. Myself, you know, Seagreen34. I think even Peter Santilli's been harassed, obviously by the Secret Service for saying a few things on Clinton, but other stuff too. You know, shut down radio shows. Michael Savage not able to go to the UK. I mean, I could go on and on and on and on and on. Stop complaining that people like me are out here revealing this information, and then you got to sit there and make fun of, well, they don't do that anymore. You know, you're making fun of it. You're putting on a show. This isn't a show. This isn't entertainment. This is serious business. So instead of being back there and being smug and smiling and laughing and saying people are crazy and all that, why don't you try it? See what happens to you. And the reason why you won't is because you're probably working for them. Most of you don't have your own pictures up on YouTube, you know. So, yeah, really. Who's to be believed? No, I'm not 100% right on what's going on. Of course not. But you know what? You aren't right at all. You've just chosen the evil side. And I'll say it again. Repent. Because when they dig that pit for everybody, and they're going to get a lot of us in there, but guess who's going to fall in next? You guys that are digging the pit for us. For all of the rest of you, good day. Like I said, I don't know when this will actually be